So it is time for the ElseViews. And since we have the perfect segue from the last news story to my ElseView, I think I'm going to be greedy and go first.
All I know about segues is go over cliffs.
So full disclosure, we are recording this on Tuesday because I wanted to watch TV yesterday. More specifically, the WWE Raw 25th anniversary special that they aired on USA. Now, I will say, if you watch Cultaholic, their YouTube channel, I agree with quite a bit of their WTF things that they had. So with this, they were trying to be, monumental, and we're doing this in 2 different places. We have it at the Barclays Center where we do SummerSlam, and then we are also doing it at the site of the first at the first Raw in the Manhattan Center, and these 2 venues and all this stuff. And that really didn't pay off. Like, it was great for the nostalgia factor. Like, they opened the show with Jerry the King Lawler and good old Jim Ross there, but then they almost immediately cut to the other side, at the Brooklyn and the Barclays Center. It was so bad for the people in the audience at the Manhattan Center, because they built it, ticketed, okay, we're going to have stuff at both places, that when they had the first match, the fans chanted, "Thanks for thinking of us." It was like one of these, like, hey, you didn't forget about us things and all that stuff, like, because it's right here and we're not having to watch it on the screens. And it did feel like that. Like, the moments that they had over there were great, but it wasn't perfect.
What was really in poor taste was the match they had at the Pontiac Silverdome with George the Animal Steel. I don't even think that was intended. It was just like they filmed the homeless guy and for an hour. Yeah. He was just fighting his own demons. Just fighting your own demons, George. Lou Albano, we miss you, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they had a lot of people on there. It was really good, even as they set up for, the Royal Rumble this Sunday. But at the same time, I'm like, this could have been a little bit better if they did in another iconic arena that they haven't been to in a long time, Madison Square Garden. I would have seen that being a little bit more monumental than doing 2 places where one, hey, you bought a $90 ticket to watch it on TV with a bunch of other people. And the other place where, hey, you're watching all the events and, you have to watch 3 matches on the Jumbotron and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm gonna keep it really short. I loved it, and I don't regret pushing off the show a day to watch it. So, Corey,
did you watch it? Are you a WWE subscriber? Do you have that?
Yes, on the WWE Network. Yeah, that Raw and SmackDown aren't included in that. You get the Raw replays, so I couldn't have waited and watch it. But I could have watched the 90-minute version on Hulu. But I'm like, I'm just gonna do the whole thing. So, Corey,
how much did it run?
It's a 3-hour show.
No, how much was it to watch it?
It's on USA. It's free, but then on the WWE Network, yeah, it was on the USA Network.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still confused about wrestling because it was always pay-per-view stuff when I was a kid, and I don't know how that stuff all worked out since they did their subscription plans.
The subscription plans are mainly for the pay-per-views, and then they have their weekly stuff. Like right now is 205 Live, like as we're recording, 205 Live is airing, their cruiserweight show, and then tomorrow they have NXT. But even then, if you're not a subscriber, you can watch those things on Hulu. Like if you have Hulu, you can watch them on there. So it's a lot of it. The main draw is the pay-per-views,
which I'm just surprised pay-per-view is still a thing at that point. If
yeah, that's something that me and Beat were talking about. All right, so Corey, you watched Black Lightning.
I did, because I'm on a neighborhood watch, and I figure you gotta be. No, I'm kidding. So I think it's common knowledge on here that I've dropped out of the CW shows. I hit my wall somewhere in the middle of last season. My second wall with Arrow and even Flash, which I liked for a long time last season, was just so rough to get through. Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow. I think I came in for the crossovers. I came in for the Flash Supergirl musical episode, and I kind of thought, I don't know that I'm even interested in going back. I'm hearing good things about Flash this season. Supergirl's got Legion superheroes on it now. I'm interested in that, but again, it's in the midst of it's not like they could have easily fixed all the problems that I was having with those shows. And I want to emphasize, my problems with the shows does not mean that there are problems with the shows. It means that I am not enjoying them for whatever reasons. And I was kind of up in the air as to whether or not I was going to check out Black Lightning, because it's part of that gaggle of other shows. Now, it's not so far in the same universe in as much as there's not any kind of mention of Green Arrow or Flash or Supergirl or whoever. They do make it seem like there are other heroes in the world. They just don't bring any of it up. It's in a different area. So it's possible that it's on one or both, well, one of the other planets, I guess. It could be in Arrow and Flash's world version of Earth, which I guess is Earth 1 in this. It could be in whatever Earth Supergirl is in these things. Could be, I doubt it's Earth 2 with Harry and all that stuff. But it pretty much stands alone. The thing is that even standing alone, it's the same creators. It's the same, I would assume, some of the same writers. And did I want to come back into that? Now, all I've seen so far is the pilot. And as a pilot, it sets you up with what you need to know about the character, what you need to know about the direction of the show. And they can be iffy. They can be like, oh, yeah, you know, it's very hammer it all in so you get all you need, and doesn't do a great job of telling story. Or it could be the opposite. It could be like the first episode is great, and then everything that comes after that is just like filler until you get into the season. I don't know what the second episode is like yet. It just aired last night, and even though I wasn't watching wrestling like some people, I didn't watch this yet. But I will say that in the first episode, I very much enjoyed what they did. Now, the story of Black Lightning in this incarnation, is that he quit being a superhero years ago. He was a protector in his community, but he was not beloved by the cops because he's a vigilante. And he had some enemies in the gang. The gang is called the 100, which I think used to be a CW show, which is just a dick move. But he quit because he was getting beat up and was likely going to get himself killed. And he was married and had 2 daughters. And his wife was like, you can't keep doing this. And one time he came home just too far for her, and she left him. She left their marriage. She took their daughters, didn't like take them completely away from him, but just basically he realized that if he was ever going to get his family back, meaning his wife and full time with his kids, he was going to have to give this up. Now, he also, in his regular life, became the school principal. And one of the things he says in this is that he's saved more lives and done more to affect his community as the principal of his school than he ever did as Black Lightning, which I think is cool. It gives him motivations outside of the suit, which Oliver really didn't have, and Barry should have had more of, especially as a cop, as a CSI, as a tech for the police. He should be more involved, but it just seems like you're always waiting for them to get in the costume, and that's really it. Now, again, I'm not watching this season. I think there's more going on with Barry right now than that. And Ollie, I guess, became mayor or something. But in this, it works out because to pull him into being Black Lightning again, it has to be something that he can't do as the principal. He can't do as just a regular person. And yeah, they give you a little bit of flashes, so to speak, of him kind of like leaning towards reacting. There is the pulled over for being black, which is a phrase I think we know from Baratunde and Odakta. There's a lot of things where it's just like the gang stuff has become too much. Plus, his daughter winds up getting involved. She's being rebellious, and she winds up getting involved with a guy who is part of the gangs and gets in over her head, and he goes in to get her out, and that puts him back on the street as Black Lightning again. Some of the big things that I like about this is the fact that he's got kids. In the first episode, we find out that one of the kids has developed powers themselves, and we'll see where that goes. But it's also just the fact that he's a parent is a different dynamic than what I was getting from the other shows. The stuff that he's trying to do at the school, some of the stuff is getting played in those other shows. Oliver, they gave a kid. Oliver, they've given him a job outside of being Green Arrow, but this is like trying to find a balance. Oliver never really balanced it. And overall, I feel like maybe the gang stuff, it's all very personal right away, but it's not someone else's vendetta, which it was for Oliver. It was him fulfilling his dad's thing. It's not fucking flashbacks 3 times an episode to a fucking island that nobody wants to see anymore. So I really like that he's got a guy who works with him that supplies him with the stuff that's already in place, that's in place from before. All of these things that we would normally see the first season build, like, okay, who's the hero? What's his identity? Where did he get the suit? Who's his support group? All those things are already there from the very beginning in this. And I think that makes it easier to jump into this than it did in those other things of like, how many episodes until Win and Supergirl actually make sense? And oh no, Supergirl's part of the DEA or whatever. It all becomes very kind of cliche and convenient that hey, we just happen to have this excellent lab for Flash to hang out with. It just, who's funding this? Nobody. But it's still okay. We're all still doing it. That's what I like, is that this doesn't need all of that kind of explanation to fix the holes that you're just supposed to glaze past and ignore otherwise. It's more street level. And yeah, it's still, it's still a TV show that's trying to do superpowers. And I think that it's doing them okay. He's not so super powerful, but there are things that it was, shut up, Beat. I will slam you into the fucking ground. Pete just said, are you saying it's grounded? Yes, it is. It's I think it also speaks to me in a way that the Luke Cage stuff has, and I really like Luke Cage. I think that the second half of Luke Cage's first season was garbage because they changed villains at a point in time where the first villain was really interesting and the second one was just not. Although, as I think back on it now, I feel like that second villain spoke more to the types of films and stuff from the 70s that it was playing off of. And that silliness and over-the-top attitude and everything else maybe was meant to be evocative of classic things that it was trying to play off. That's cooler. It still just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And again, very early into this show, we'll see how long it works for me and how long it doesn't. I am older now, and keeping up with these programs, they're just not as interesting to me anymore. There's so much good content out there, and it's harder for something to keep my attention. But I was glad to give this one a shot. I'm glad that it made me want to see the second episode. So I went from just recording the pilot to saying, okay, let's season pass this now, because I don't want to miss it. I wanted a chance to see more of it. So yeah. So far, so good.
So I also watched Black Lightning, and I got an article I read before the show that I hadn't shared with you guys that I want to share because it could affect some things here. But I liked it. I am I'd say probably about 15, maybe 30 minutes in, saw the comparisons to Luke Cage. Not as a bad thing, but just as all right, it's got that similar setup that Luke Cage had of he's doing this to protect the people that he loves.
His community as well.
Yeah, his community. But I love this pilot. I love everything that they, from the music to the look, the feel of everything. You almost couldn't say one of the producers is Greg Berlanti. This seems like something completely different. Like they're just using DC characters, but that he's not really in, like, it, you wouldn't say, oh, this is an Arrowverse thing. It's not, but it's in that same, it's from that same team. Now, I read an article. Yeah, it stands out really well. I read an article that says from the CW president, we will only ever get at one time 4 superhero shows on at once. That's why we have right now the long break for Legends of Tomorrow. Keeping that in mind, you get to play the president of CW. And this is just the superhero ones. So Riverdale and iZombie get passes. But you have Black Lightning, Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. What do you put for whole seasons? Like, there's no breakage between them. And then what do you put as, like, smaller seasons?
I mean, it's unfair for me to state this because I've already hit my point of I don't care for those other shows right now. I may at some point come back to them and find the enjoyment that I had at the beginning. But I think that Arrow itself has shown that it's maybe gotten a little long in the tooth, maybe time to retire. But it's unfair to say that because it's also been a long running Flash staple for the CW network and is one of their most successful ones. That's going to be the thing, is it's going to have to be judged by the successes. I do like that Black Lightning has a different, distinct feel from the other shows, but each of those shows should have their own distinct feel. You know what I do, honestly, is I would move Kara over to the same Earth as the other characters.
Yeah.
And I would do it slowly. So I would integrate her like what they're doing right now is they're integrating Kid Flash into the Legends of Tomorrow show. I would integrate Kara into that for at least half a season. And then I would combine her and Barry's show together. And I would call it The Brave and the Bold. And make that one show with both of those, because I think they work really well together. I think tonally they fit together. And they're both the most super powered superheroes of the whole group. It just feels like it could work. But at that point in time, why aren't we just doing a Justice League show? You know, maybe not calling it Justice League, but doing something in the way that is that, you know, because Legends of Tomorrow really isn't a superhero team. It's super powered team, although half of them are not powered, but it's their motives are very different from a group like that.
Yeah. I like that idea of, you know, the Brave and the Bold. But my thing with, well, why not do a Justice League TV show? And Legends sort of counters it, or contradicts what I'm going to say, is the fact that with the Justice League, you have quite a bit of characters that need to get, you know, that will all have their own storylines going through. And since we already have Legends, I could see that being a little bit too complicated in a way.
But in that case, I feel like, one, we've got Arrow has got his team now. He's got a whole bunch of heroes that are on his team. Flash doesn't quite have that, but has had enough speedsters for one. But on top of that, now they've got Elongated Man in there, becoming more of a regular character this season, I guess. They've got Vibe. I don't know how much they're using Killer Frost because she's really a villain, but everybody's got fucking powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all of these things are essentially team shows already. Supergirl has Martian Manhunter, and then has all the DEO stuff that's in there too. Occasionally, now she's introduced Mon-El and all the Legion characters. They keep wanting to give us a Justice League without calling it the Justice League. Got to tell you guys, it's not like the movie. He really made good use of the name. But even if you call it something else, do something else. That's fine. I just feel like, what would be the show that would grab everybody's attention? Because the crossovers do it. The crossovers grab everybody's attention. If you took these characters, if you got rid of Legends and you combined these things into a big powerhouse show that jumped around, like maybe still have individual shows for some of the characters, but involve them into a big crossover show at all times as well, then that would be the beck and call for everybody who watches this stuff. That would be the biggest viewership. It would cost the most too, but it's kind of like how they were paying John Barrowman and Captain Cold. They gave them contracts that allowed them to go between the different shows.
Yes.
So it wasn't like, I'm just contracted to be on Arrow or I'm just contracted to be on Flash. It's, I'm contracted to be on any of them. They're just going to use me in the right amount of episodes that they need to fulfill the contract and put me where I make the most sense that week.
Yeah.
Do it like that. It's just kind of, what do you call those things to do it? But I feel that's very beneficial, because then you can get Green Arrow and a Canary, whichever one they decide on finally, and Atom and Flash and Supergirl all in one place more regularly. And that is what the viewers want. It's just, you have to do some good storytelling at the same time. And it de-emphasizes the melodrama with all the side characters, that it's the least interesting and most frustrating of the shows. For me. Again, for me.
Here's sort of my piggyback off of it. You take your idea of Brave and Bold, that is your group show. So then that they can do the Justice League without calling it Justice League, to have that pressure on them from the movie universe, and to where, you know, the film universe can still have Justice League, but they have their own. And so it sort of be like a wink and a nudge for the fans, like, yeah, that's called the Justice League, but we got the Justice League here. But then my question would be, do we then have more for a show where we don't have, like right now, it's all, they're doing the traditional start in the fall, end in the spring, start in the fall, end in the spring. You're talking about like these characters where they have other little stories outside. Like, do we then do like, okay, this is going to be where we'll have Flash and Supergirl. And then I still like the concept of Legends, but for this, I'm going to disallow it because part of me wants to keep Black Lightning because it is separate. So, and to follow the rule of there's going to be 4 superhero shows on here. And then the next season, we might get the Legends. So we're going to get more time travel stuff and Arrow, but not Flash and Supergirl.
Yeah. And we're not even talking about some of the other properties that one may be involved, but are on different networks like Titans, or that were from somewhere else and came in and get used sparingly, like Constantine. I like that you saw the Brave and the Bold thing because it works even better if you treat it not exactly like an anthology show, but sort of like an anthology show where it's not always the whole team. It's kind of like Justice League Unlimited was when they switched from the Justice League show, which was about those 7 characters and all the stuff that they did as a group. And then they went into the Unlimited one where it's like, there's just so many different people that are on the Justice League. We can't make the shows feature them all. But if we concentrate on a couple of them at a time and do those stories, it gives you more of a broad sense of the Justice League is always doing something, always working, but not always working in the same room at once. And it gives us the opportunity to have some of the characters that wouldn't normally be heavily featured become the featured character of the show because they're always there. Your lab rat characters like a Felicity or a Cisco or whatever, they're the ones that are constantly in the room, constantly kind of like pointing the team, like what they called Watchtower when Chloe was taking over things on Smallville, which makes more sense now that she's in a cult, or Oracle or whatever, all that stuff. It doesn't make anybody lose their show. It may give you a better guidance for what the show can be and give these characters more focus in something where they wouldn't normally have more focus. Does it steal from Legends? That's the thing, is Legends kind of does that now. It's we take this character in when we need them in for a while and then we put them away. Maybe a little bit, but Legends gets to do something different because 1, Legends isn't necessarily the same kind of heroism, and 2, they get to shift through time, which you can utilize in this too.
Yeah,
but it's not the constant. Legends, I think they have to do the time thing so much that it becomes overbearing for what the storytelling could be without that always being a factor. And there's just so many things like the Legion now, and if we got the Hawks back once in a while, or either Vixen, there's so much stuff to draw into it that I think it's got a lot of potential.
Yeah,
but what do you give up to get there?
The other part is because of last week's episode of The Flash. So right now, I think I'm going to be a little bit more pickier with the CW shows. Like, because basically I gave them all Crisis on Earth X. And then I'm like, okay, I'm watching no more of them. I think tomorrow, I might go back into Supergirl and go, am I enjoying this? And actually with all the CW shows, it's on a toss up right now with me for Jane the Virgin. Because it's been like, all right, and it's like I'm still enjoying the shows, or the episodes, but it's sort of like I could be watching something else.
Like I really want to check out they just did or are just doing the Ralph Dibny Elongated Man where he actually gets a name that episode. I want to check that out, but it's like at the same time, how vested do I have to be in the show to jump into this part? And am I just
did you see the name of the episode?
The Elongated Night Strikes Back or something?
The elongated night rises.
Yeah.
With night being the like the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Like I said that's a beat and he just started laughing. But yeah, and it's like that's where I think with Flash, because I came back in and I watched last week's episode of the Trial of Barry Allen, or Trial of the Flash. I forget what they called the name of the episode. I want to say it was Barry Allen because he was on trial, not the Flash. And they alluded to, and it was something that I didn't catch, but one of the Earths that Wells mentions is Earth 15, which in the comics, it's where we get Volthoom. So it's like, this is another mention to the Green Lanterns. And I'm like, why don't they do a Green Lantern show? because the Green Lantern Corps could be another, like just calling it like the Corps or something, with the O being the Green Lantern symbol. That could be, another one of these, but it's all the space stuff, where the Brave and the Bold might be, more Earth-based.
Space is hard. Space is hard to do well in movies, let alone in TV. And we're already going to kind of see a little bit of that in the Krypton series that's coming out from Sci-Fi, that I believe it's going to include Adam Strange. There's some rumor that it might include a Hawkwoman, not necessarily the one that we had, the Kendra, but maybe the original version of Hawkwoman from the comics, Shara Hall. And it seems that a Green Lantern could stop into that because we're already dealing with other planets. But once it's that same thing of like unleashing magic into a show or unleashing other things into the show, you have to kind of prepare for how you're going to deal with the long-term effects of that.
Yeah.
Because once you unpop that cork, it's a lot to then say, okay, now we can put this away for a little while. Well, no, how can you fucking put that away? We have fucking space police. We have a Green Lantern that's a broccoli stalk. We have a Green Lantern that is a chipmunk. Like, how do you not face up to that every week? And that's challenging, and making that work with the budgets that they have for television, which they do amazing things with, but doing it regularly on that kind of show, doing a Green Lantern event series. And that might be the other portion of this too, is doing those shows, but not doing 24 episodes a season.
Yeah.
Like we always say, that doing something that's tight, do 12 episodes for each one, and then just have them roll right into each other, and then have that other thing be Brave and the Bold runs the whole season, and that's where we get to utilize the actors and the characters more when their seasons are up.
Yeah, I like that. But yeah, so I mean, Black Lightning, I believe it airs on Tuesdays on CW.
Yeah, I believe it's right after Flash.
Yeah, check it out there. And then I think it's going to be on Netflix all around the world or something. There's deals all over. You can find it if you do a quick Google search.
Or you can always check out the CW app.
Yeah, CW app, I believe, is not geo located, so you should be good no matter what.
Do you like scary movies? Did you answer yes to that question? Have you ever thought, I'd really like to listen to two random strangers talk on the internet about some movies that I may or may not have watched at some point in my life? Sometimes they even bring guests on, which adds to a little bit of the banter. Sometimes we cover the news of the week. Sometimes we don't talk about the movie at all. Sometimes one of us gets a little bit drunk. It's just the way that we do things over at the Podcast of Terror, which is a production of Galactic Netcast, in case you weren't sure. If you're interested in this, please go ahead and head over to gncast.com/pot. Subscribe and enjoy the crap out of it.
For more on this Galactic Network podcast, go to gncast.com. That's gncast.com.